Not kidding. I just made a whole like hour-long video of me going down into my basement where it's nice and dark and setting up my studio in the dark with a flashlight shining from the side of my sculpture's face to create really intense contrast between shadows and highlights, which is chiaroscuro, right? And I did my whole drawing and brought it up here, was still making my video, and then all of a sudden my computer went bloop and just crashed my video. So what I was showing you in my basement is, first of all, this is my drawing board. You don't have to get one of these, but they do sell them at art stores and probably Michael's, I don't know. But you can also go to Home Depot and Lowe's, and this is like some kind of a special board that they use in construction, and one side of it is really smooth and it's perfect for drawing on. So what you do is you get some painter's tape and you paint, or you paint, and you tape a border around, and that helps fix it to the surface as well. And then you can just sit here and do your drawing, which is great. I only used 4 drawing tools to do this drawing. First of all, you need to have something that's going to give you pure black, because chiaroscuro is contrast of shadow to light. Now you might have a black colored pencil, you might have a black crayon. I happen to have black charcoal because I have these little kits. People always get me little drawing kits for like holidays and stuff. So all I did was use that. And remember how I told you I was in the basement and I had a flashlight? You can tell what direction my flashlight was in, right? And I sat there in the dark and I just sketched in the value. And the first thing I did is I just did a gentle, and I didn't use this dark one actually. I used something called vine charcoal. If you can ever get vine charcoal, it's super light and it comes off the paper easily, but it is perfect for doing your original sketch, just to kind of get the proportions of things right and get your outline. And then it'll just kind of like dust right off if you're not careful. But then once I had that outline, that contour line around the edge, I didn't worry about any of these details in here. I did kind of sketch them in after I got my contour done, but I just took the black and I went all the way around, and then that same makeup pad that I had that I was using to do my clay, I used that and I blended it, and remember that tape is there, which is so awesome. And then I went in and I started looking at, okay, where do I see black value in the actual sculpture itself? And I just look for like those shapes. So like here in the cheek, you kind of have a rectangle of black, and I just penciled that in. And then down here there was kind of like a little triangle of black, and in the mouth there was this shape, and in the eye there was a sunken area, and there was some black here and some black there. There was black in my nostrils. And of course the light comes in and it highlights this side, and this is all going to stay white. I'm not going to draw on that. And then the light hits this side of the lips over here, right, and creates a little bit of shade over here, but it's not pure black. Okay, so then we're looking for those mid-tones. So I use the same thing, but I just did it lighter and I didn't do it so hard, and I wasn't worried about how it looked. Once I got my values in, then I use this stump. This is just paper that's rolled up. These are awesome if you can get a stump. Otherwise, you can do something like a Q-tip, or, you know, these makeup strips. And I just go through and I just gently start blending. And so you could see how it would be really easy for me to just blend. And I was in the dark, so now that I'm in the light, I could do a lot better. But you blend with this little dude, or your finger, or your Q-tip, and then you have, when we were putting some color on there, or black, that was additive. Just like with the sculpting, you have your additive process. Well, with drawing, you also have your subtractive process, and this is an eraser that has a nice pointy tip on it, and I can come in, and where I accidentally got a little too much of the gray tones, I can erase, and I can also just lightly feather and tone down the gray tones if they're just a little too dark in certain areas, right? So I didn't use a lot of tools, and I didn't use a plain pencil either, because that just doesn't do it for me anyway. So yeah, now that I'm up here, I'm like, oh, I can see lots of areas where I could go in there and keep working it. And this process is called rendering, okay? And that is where we're going back and forth and back and forth, and we've taken some away, and then we go, oh, okay, now that area is a little bit too light, or maybe there's not enough shadow in here and I need to add a little more. Of course, I had already taken off my tape and everything. And I really don't like this because it's hard, and I like the soft stuff, and I'm going to show you. But my normal sketching kit, it's down to a stump at this point. So you can see how just adding in a little bit of value there was nice, huh? What do you think? Did you like that addition? So that's all you're doing. You're just adding and taking away. When you get into your little spots where it's, you know, really fine, you use your pencil eraser. And you get in there. And you can use that to like smooth out edges. Super nice stuff. Okay. But I'm not going to spend too much time now. With my photography and my sketch, I was at 50 minutes. And that was stopping to talk to you and stuff. So I really rushed. I don't want you to take too long. I mean, if you decide that you get done with this and you have time and you can spend the time like really rendering it, do it, okay? So then what I did was I just took off the tape, right? And I signed it. And I took some pictures of it. Remember, with your pictures, you need to make sure, first of all, there isn't a glare on it. And you need to stand square over it. So like when I was taking my picture of this, I was square right over it. Not at an angle. I hate that when students take pictures of their artwork at an angle. And then it's like this shape. Literally, it goes like this, and I'm like, how am I supposed to crop that? I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to take my camera. I'm going to shoot this at an angle just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So if you were shooting it at an angle, you'd be sitting like this. All right, and I'm going to take a picture of that right now. All right, so there's at an angle versus getting up right on top of it, high enough that it can still focus, because if I get too close, my camera can't deal with that. Remember, you can crop everything out, so make sure that you're square to it, and then take your shot, okay? Then, this is what happened when my last video stopped working, is when I plugged in my phone. So I'm going to pause this and cross my fingers and hope that I'm still making a video. Hallelujah. Still making a video. Okay, so I plugged in my phone, and there it is. There's my LG stylus. And on my phone itself, I actually have to go in, and I know I have to go in here, and I have to find where it says Android charging, and I click on that, and I am going to select photo transfer. See how photo transfer? So if you plug your phone in and nothing's happening, it's because you've got to give your phone permission to transfer it. I'm going to do photo transfer and just put always. So it doesn't have to ask me. I'll just put use always. Always transfer my photos. Heck yeah. And So there's my phone, and I'm going to double click on it, and DCIM is where your pictures are, and your camera's right there. So here's my pictures that I've been taking, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit Shift and click the last one, and that selects all of them, and then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to cut these because I don't want them on my phone. I just want them on my computer, and I save all my stuff in pictures. So I'm going to my Fine Arts and 2017-18, and I'm just going to create a new folder really quick. New folder. I'm going to call this Chiaroscuro Drawing, and I'm going to right click and paste those pictures there. So this was my fancy setup. This is with the lights on. I just put a stool in front of this little cabinet and grabbed something black, and I stuck the edge of it into the cabinet and closed it so that it would hold it there, and then I just draped it down the stool and set my sculpture there. And then over here on the left, not shown, I actually turned off the lights and had, you know how your cell phone has a flashlight? I put my cell phone flashlight, because we've got two phones, so put one of the cell phone flashlights over here, and it created like light coming from the one side. Okay, and so then what that ended up looking like is this. So this is, I have like a soft light on down there, so it's not perfectly black, but I've got that flashlight set up so you can see the chiaroscuro, that contrast between shadow and light. That's what you're looking for, shadow and light. And you always want to stand back far enough and hold still enough. Like I sit down and prop my elbows on my lap, and I take a deep breath and hold it and take a picture. I use my cell phone, but let me say, some people's cell phones, like mine, that supposedly had a good camera, but apparently got the only one they manufactured that doesn't have a good camera. A lot of people have complained about it. It's the LG Stylus 3. Some people are like taking awesome pictures with it, and a bunch of us got like factory defects. But so I deal with that kind of a camera. I could have gotten my DSLR, but I just was kind of in a hurry. Now you notice I've got this awesome crack here, and I'm going to be finishing that in GIMP. And I also broke off the edge on accident. It tipped over. That is cool. I like that one. Sweet. So these pictures turned out pretty good. And then here's my drawing. And this was before I put my signature on it. Okay, so here, this one has my signature. And, you know, I'm not asking for perfection. Like, seriously, if I had more time, I'd put this away right now. And then I would come back tomorrow, and I would work on blending it and refining it more and more. But, you know, we don't have a lot of time to do these projects, so I understand. As long as you're getting, there's that, there's that tape. Here's my kit that I use, and then, yeah, just the 3 tools that I used on this project basically was that black charcoal, my stump for blending, my eraser for blending and for taking away black, and this is what I smudged my background with. And then I ended up also erasing here and creating how the light would reflect off of the sculpture and hit the table again over here, and over here it would have been darker. And this is what I'm talking about. Do not take a picture at an angle. Watch what happens when I go to crop this. This is like, why do people do this to me? It drives me crazy. Okay. Can I crop that? Can I crop that? Seriously. That's what happens when I try to crop it. All right? Don't do that. It's insane. You need to take your picture. I don't know why that keeps showing up on my other screen. Head on. So then you can go in and crop it. You know what I mean? Ta-da! Cropped. Or that make sense? So please make sure that you're square to your drawings when you take your pictures. Okay, so now if you go to your GIMP, www.gimp.org, and open that up, download it, you can go ahead and open up your images, File, Open, and I go to my pictures where I keep my Fine Arts folder, 2017-18, my chiaroscuro drawing folder that I made, and I'm going to look for the sculpture that I want. I think I said that was a good one. I'll go ahead and open that one. Okay. And remember I was telling you that I have a crack. Well, I'm going to fix that with the healing tool. So this right here is the healing tool, and I need to go ahead and save this. I don't know what just happened. File, save as. Okay, I'm going to save this as Rachel Girot, because you always say with your first and last name first. Rachel Girot, I'll just put bust. Okay. And I'm going to zoom in. This is a zoom tool right here. And if it does that, just hit Shift. Nope, Control makes it zoom out, and just clicking zooms in. It's different for the two different programs I use. So I'm healing this, okay? Now it says I don't have a brush selected, and I don't know why my default has been doing that. I'm gonna grab a big brush with a fuzzy edge, okay? So now I have a brush, and you can kind of see it there. And that might be a little too big, so I'm gonna decrease the size a little bit. And I am going to grab this healing tool. And usually what you would do is you would take your control and click an area that's similar to what you're healing, and then just start painting. Oh, isn't that cool? Did you see it? It just totally fixed that. Here's the clone tool. There we go. Okay. Now you can hold down Control and click where you want it to clone from. Okay, so it's going to clone from that spot, and now I just click and paint. And you have to be careful if your brush is too big. I'm going to have to decrease the size of my brush. Okay, so I can just get that little area right there. And I can also zoom in some more if I need to. Doesn't look bad. So then I can take my smudge tool here, or you've got a blur tool. That one works too. I'll click that one, and I'm just gonna go like this. Okay, I can kind of see it. It's really subtle. It's really subtle, but I can see it. I am going to try the smudge tool. That's the one with the finger. So this one, yeah, there we go. So that's the same thing as when you're actually smudging. So this is something that's kind of cool because you can bring your art in here. And now I'm going to switch back from such a solid brush. I want a more feathered edge. And you can also decrease the opacity a little bit so that you're not smudging as harshly. So you can go in and just kind of blend. So you got some areas that aren't looking that great. Like you can see the texture. You can see where your fingernail accidentally, punctured it. You can blend it out. Zoom back out, click that zoom tool, and I'm gonna hold down Control while I zoom out. And now I just need to crop it. So the crop tool, click Save, is this little knife right here, and crop it how you think. You can grab any of the corners. You kind of want to tighten in on him. Or her. Okay, and then when you're done, you just click in the middle and then it crops it. Perfect. So I'm going to say File, Save, and then I'm going to go File, Export. So this is making an image out of it now. And it's making a ping, and I don't want a ping, I want a JPEG, so erase the PNG and type JPG for JPEG. Or you can go down here where it says Select File Type and alphabetically look for JPEG. Click on that and it'll change the extension for you. And then you're going to click Export, and this is the part that's really important. You need to make sure that your image is about 500 kilobytes, but you still have to have good quality. So I'm going to cancel real quick. What you've got to do, first of all, is check and see the size of this. Right now it's at 25%. So what does it look like when it's 100%? Oh, it's too big. I can't even see the whole thing when it's 100%. So I need to resize my image. So I'm going into Image, Scale Image. Okay? This is really important. Change your resolution to 72 if it's not already. Okay? And I'm going to change pixels to inches. Okay? It says that it's 18 inches by 25 inches. That's like 2 feet by 1.5 feet. Okay? So since this little lock is here, that means that they're linked together. If I change one, it'll change the other. So I'm going to change my width to be about 8 inches and hit Tab, and it'll automatically change the height, and then I'm going to go ahead and scale that. Now, remember, down here at the bottom, it says it's 100%. It's still pretty big, but I'd rather have all of that detail in there. So now that I've got it sized where it actually can fit on the screen, now I'm going to go File, Export, As, okay? And I want you to grab this and slide it over after you change that to JPEG. www. Okay, so just change that to JPEG. This is that screen where you could also go down here to select the JPEG file type down below, clicking on that. Okay, but you have to slide this over because you've got to be able to see your picture, okay? You need to be able to see him. And trust me, if you forget to slide that over and you try to do it later, you're going to mess everything up. So just cancel it if you forgot and start over, and then slide this over so you can see it. Click Export and slide this over. Okay, now don't touch that other window, because if you do, this box disappears. That's what I was trying to tell you. You just hit cancel if that happens and start over and slide your stuff over. Okay, so we're going to do Show Preview and Image Window, and when you do that, it calculates the file size, okay? And it's at 93% right now, and it's really small. So I'm going to go ahead and bring mine up to 100%, and look, 364 kilobytes. That's perfect, okay? I have enough detail in there. I can see it. It's sharp. Well, it's very grainy because of the fact that I took it in dark lighting. But it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that. Now, the situation that you might have is if you're using a DSLR camera, it's going to be really important that you size this. Make sure this says 100% and go to Image, Scale Image, and make sure that you change that to inches, and make sure it's a reasonable number of inches that fits on a computer screen, okay? Like, I could have even gone down to 6 inches on that and it would have been fine. All right, so that's what you do for that. So that one's done. Next, I've got my drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and go File, Open, and I need to find my drawing. So let's see, which one are you? I want the one that had my signature, which I believe is that one. Okay, so the first thing I need to decide is how do I want to crop this? Do I want to make it so that it's just the black? And I think I do. I'm just going to crop the edge of the paper right off. I mean, border is nice for like paper, but I think I'm just gonna leave it like this. Okay, that's good. Click in the middle. Now, I'm gonna use my smudge tool and I'm gonna do some more editing on this. This is totally cheating, but I love it. I'm gonna save it first. Save as, what do you save it as? Your first and last name. And this will be my drawing. Okay, you don't change the extension. This is an XCF file, it's a GIMP file. You can go back in and edit it later. But I'm gonna zoom in just a touch. And I'm gonna grab my smudger, and I might decrease my opacity a little bit so it doesn't smudge it too much. It's not too dramatic. If your GIMP freezes up, just click save. Okay, make sure you have a nice soft brush, and then come on over here and look at this. Hey, hey, hey. Remember, Control Z undoes anything. So I can actually get some nice blurring done on the computer. I love this. I was sitting in the dark and I couldn't really see what I was doing that well. I want a big brush. So I'm gonna increase the size of my brush. I don't know how big that is. Well, that's way too big. How about this size? That's probably still too big. But I'm just gonna blur a little bit. And I think I have my opacity up too high. There, that's better. So, you don't have to do this, but I'm doing it. I didn't like all of the charcoal marks I was getting because my charcoal was so dark. And the other thing is if you want to get some more dark, just use your paintbrush. Watch this. Okay, let me grab my paintbrush here. And this is the color black, the foreground color it's going to paint with. Watch. Oh yeah, that's pretty sweet. So I can actually get those pure blacks that I was sorely missing. I'm just going to blend it. This is the exact same thing I was doing with that little charcoal, and my opacity is too low. I'm going to bring it up so that it has more blending action going on. How fun. I might not do it everywhere completely dark like that. I'm going to back up a little. Hold down Control to zoom back out. Or you can also go View, Zoom, Fit Image and Window, and you can see the whole thing. And now I'm going to smudge. I'm going to get a big brush like I was going to do before. I'm going to increase my opacity, and I'm going to increase my opacity even more. And that's really going to pull the paint over. And because I have the blurry edged brush, I can go right up next to my drawing and it doesn't really hurt it. It's pretty fun. Did you see how that just kind of like popped? Probably need a smaller brush. So that'll give me an opportunity. Let me show you another little tool. Let me get this rounded out here. Okay, so another tool that you can use is like the color picker. So let's say I wanted to pick this gray color over here and get some of that over there. I'm going to use my paintbrush to get that over there. And I'm going to double click on that, and it's going to give me this little, it's called a color picker. I have to click save to get my RAM free. And then I can come over here and pick that gray color right there, and notice that the current color changed. Click OK, and now I can come over here and I can paint that gray right there. And I'm going to double click and I'm going to get this lighter gray. Of course that didn't work because I'm going to hit Control Z because I have to click save and make sure I have my little color picker there. That's a lighter shade of gray. Click OK, and then I can see, didn't like that. Remember, Control Z, that's so nice, you can undo anything. Just get rid of the texture there a little bit. Oh, that's right, this little part down here, I was gonna blend that in. There. Good enough. There's my signature. There's my chiaroscuro drawing. Just dramatic contrast between light and dark. Gonna click save one last time, then file, export as, make sure it says JPEG, move this over to the side, click export, move this over, click show preview, says my size is 302, bring that up to 100. Okay, I can go down a little bit. Now the reason why we have this picture preview over here that I want you to see is because if you go down in quality too much, it'll start to look pixelated and grainy. So it's important that you're not going down in quality. If you can't get yours down to 500 without losing the quality, then you probably have to change the size of your image first. So I'm gonna go ahead and export that. So let's see, remember we were talking about putting it at 100%. Oh boy, that's ugly. It's actually not ugly, it's kind of cool, I like the texture. But you'd go image, scale image, change this to inches, change this to however many inches, hit tab and it automatically changes the rest, and then scale it. So I will have to export it again now that I've scaled it, and export. Will I replace it? Yeah, I'm just going to replace that one. Bring this up to 100%. It's really small, 174 kilobytes. That's real nice. So it's gonna, the reason why you want the file size small is so that when I go to open it, it doesn't even take any time. It just pops up on the screen. So that's it. I'm gonna close that out. You're gonna submit your drawing and your sculpture photo. Oh, I forgot to tell you about brightness and contrast on this. Sorry about that. This was gonna be really important. On your photo, go view, zoom, fit image and window. I wanted you to go into colors, brightness and contrast, and I wanted you to increase the contrast. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. It's a play between light and dark, but if you guys could, sorry, I forgot to mention that while you're doing it, but if you could go in there and adjust the brightness and contrast, click OK, then you'll have to save again, then you'll have to export again, and you shouldn't have to make any crazy changes if you're exporting again. You're just gonna bring it to 100%, okay? And then for your other one, same thing, view, zoom, fit image and window, go into colors, brightness and contrast, and increase, whoa, I might not have to increase my contrast because I actually came in here and did all of that rendering, and click OK. Let's just see what it would have been like. Remember, at that point, then you have to click save, export as, and yes, replace it. But what if I had just used one of my drawings, right? Remember, if something doesn't work, Okay, let's do File, Save As. Rachel Girot. Always put your first and last name, and then I'll put drawing unrendered with GIMP. All right, so crop. You can adjust your edges after you get that little box drawn, and then click the middle for it to crop. You can go View, Zoom, Fit Image and Window, and then go to your colors, brightness and contrast, and bam! Look at that. File save, file export as, there it is, the unrendered. It automatically saved it as a JPEG. I'll move it over here. Click export, just check on my quality and my size. It's pretty big. I'm gonna go back and cancel it and change this to 100% to see where it's at. Yeah, it's big. Go to image, scale image, change that to inches. Okay, bring that down to 8 inches. Tab, scale. Remember 72. If your resolution's 100, you need to bring that to 72. 72 is for being on a computer monitor. 300 pixels per inch is for if you're printing on paper. You're not going to be printing any of this on paper. You're only going to be submitting it electronically. All right, so now I can go File, Export As, move this over. Okay, perfect. Now I can take it up to 100% quality. It's still under 500 kilobytes. Awesome. So I want your image right around 500 kilobytes. If it's 150, 200, that's fine. If your image is down at like 20, dude, it's going to be so pixelated. I'm not even going to be able to see it. So anyway, those are just some tips for publishing your artwork and for getting your drawing and your photograph done and having it ready to publish. And so what happens then is you go into your folder and there's the GIMP files, but here is my Rachel Girot bust, the one that I'm going to submit to the Dropbox, and then here's my drawing that I did that I didn't render with GIMP, but I adjusted the contrast on, and here's the drawing that I did render in GIMP that I adjusted the contrast. So you can submit both your sculpture and your drawing to the Dropbox, and that's all I need. Perfect. Just make sure there's lots of chiaroscuro, lots of contrast between dark and light. Make sure you photograph that sculpture against a nice contrasting background. Sayonara.